Hello everyone, you are listening Masters of the Guitar program on Borusan Klasik Radio. I am Emre Ünlenen. We continue to introducing you the musicians who have left their marks on today's guitar music. Today we are hosting Russian guitarist Vladimir Gorbach, one of the most important names in the guitar world. Hello dear Vladimir.
Hi Emre. Nice to see you.
Nice to see you too. Thank you so much for accepting my invitation. It's a great honor to have you in our radio program.
It's my pleasure.
Thank you. Vladimir Gorbach is a world-renowned guitarist. Most of the guitar lovers got to know his music through his great GFA videos. In 2011, he received the first prize in the Guitar Foundation of America International Concert Artist Competition. Yes, Vladimir, we will talk about the GFA, but before that, I want to ask about your story. Please share with us who is Vladimir Gorbach.
Hi everyone. I am a guitarist from Russia and actually from Siberia. So from it's not really an eastern part or northern part of Russia, but it's definitely right in the middle. Siberia is huge and there are a lot of big cultural centers, cities in Siberia as well, and I grew up in one of them called Novosibirsk, and that's why I started learning guitar with a beautiful, incredibly talented teacher, Yuri Kuzin, who was my mentor up until I finished my high school studies and Germany. And in Russia, the education is very fun for kids. It's very competitive, and music school is an entity that is separate from regular school. So after you go to your classes, you go to the music school and you hang out with your musical friends, and then there are a lot of festivals for kids and competitions. So it was a good time. But I realized that in my teens, in order to keep developing and growing, I would need to probably leave my city. And as I came to the realization, I was thinking, okay, well, where can I learn the best way? And at the time, the best place to learn guitar seemed to be Germany to me, because it was one of the most, and still is today, one of the most diverse places for music education. And a lot of teachers in the conservatories are Russians, for instance, in piano and violin, a lot of Russian professors. Guitarists are from Spain or South America, so you really get this melting pot experience. And I also had friends in Cologne, and I heard that it's a very, very nice school, so I decided to go to Cologne, and I tried my luck, and I entered the Cologne Musikhochschule, or the Music Academy in Cologne, which is a western part of Germany. And that's why I stayed for the next 10 years after I left. And I entered class, was very lucky to study many years. So I finished my bachelor and my master's degree. I studied with Roberto Aucel, who is a guitarist from Argentina and a very, very known guitarist who collaborated with Piazzolla, and he was known in Russia as well for his recordings, and also for the pieces. The only solo works that Piazzolla wrote for guitar were dedicated to him. It's 5 pieces. So this was my time. This was my time in Germany, and that's where I realized an important thing happened, because I enjoyed playing, and I was quite active as a student and a young guitarist in Russia. And upon my arrival in Germany, and I never really been outside Russia before. Well, I had a little trip to Poland maybe in my early teens, and here I am in Germany, and sort of I'm experiencing the way of life. And at school, at the Cologne Academy, I pretty quickly realized that I didn't just come there to play guitar. I came to learn, because suddenly I realized I'm surrounded by this incredible high-level students that are now hard to keep up with, and they all very experienced competitors, and with a bunch of prizes won here and there in Spain and France and in Germany as well. So, and this is exactly what I needed, I think. So I started learning, practicing, working in different ways to how I practiced and played in Russia. So, but Russian education was solid, and so it was very, very helpful for me, and it helped me grow further. And of course, Germany being very, very friendly to international students, it's a very, very inclusive country in that sense. So, and I discovered also a lot of festivals and master classes, just an hour train ride from Cologne. And I mean, you're in the Netherlands, or you're in Koblenz, where there is and already was a very established festival back then, or somewhere else. So this was kind of the change of the environment that I'm still grateful for. And so I just followed suit, and I started going to the festivals and trying my luck like everybody else around me. And at the time, Marcin Dilla lived in Cologne, and we would run into each other time to time. Goran Krivokapic, another wonderful guitarist, lived in Cologne, still lives there. So yeah, so I joined the gang, and yeah, started from there.
And in that time, you have taken a scholarship from the Foundation, right?
Yes. This was a program for the students in Germany that you had to audition for. It's it's not directly sort of a scholarship that you're given. It's a program that gives you the opportunity. It's even better. It gives you opportunities to perform for very special audiences that this foundation is serving. So they go to hospitals, they go to orphanages, or even detention centers, and then they arrange the concert there, and they would hire me as their student artist, and I would go and play for the concert. So this was in exchange for the scholarship, for the money they would support their artists with. It's a beautiful experience. The idea of that foundation is that bring the live music experience, classical live music experience, to the people who normally don't have an opportunity to make it to the concert hall. Music is enjoyed by the wide, big percentage of German population. Classical music is, any music really. And some people wish they could go to concerts, but they could not either afford it, or they are for health reasons they wouldn't be able to make it. So this was bringing this conversation in the form of classical music to them, and I had most wonderful experiences where you are somewhere. Sometimes it's a concert hall. Some sort of a concert hall in some facilities, or sometimes it's just a sort of a living room settings, but people, there was no difference in how people appreciated it. It was always a special, very, very special event. And I would play solo concerts, and I would play also chamber music. So this was a wonderful experience for me to meet other members of that foundation who high-level players, the very successful students and successful early career soloists, and trying sort of myself in this chamber music setting with them.
I personally met with Vladimir at the İzarlon Guitar Symposium in 2010. To be honest, I'm so sorry for saying this, but I had no idea about who you were that day. After spending a week as a roommate, I was impressed not only with your music, but also with your personality, your thoughts on life. I have been a big fan of you ever since.
Oh, thank you.
In 2011, as I mentioned before, you won the GFA competition, the most prestigious competition in the world for guitar music. And it is a dream of any guitarist, I believe. What would you like to tell us about the preparation period, the competition, and the after?
Well, that's a very good question. And it really depends how far back before the competition shall we look, because of course I heard about a lot of competitions, and GFA always would stand out. Before I even was a student in Germany, so it's definitely one of the most known competitions and conventions in the world. So automatically, I would think as a young guitarist, as a student, that wow, that would be great just to go there and just to hear people play, you know, and maybe even participate myself. But I would be still scared to sort of imagine, okay, well, maybe I can compete, you know, successfully in such an event, and I don't know, maybe make it to the next round or something. So it was a kind of a very dreamy opportunity, and the dream was not to win it, but just to see it. Because really, it's a very interesting event as well, outside of the competition. Competition is, of course, the central event there. Competition for the concert artists, which is a no age limit group. But they have also kids age group, and young teenagers compete there as well in their separate age group. So it's really a wonderfully organized event. And then you have from all over the world, luthiers and other participants showcasing the instruments, or publishers going there. And well, I mean, it's really a model for any successful competition or festival in the world today. And now we have festivals in Vienna and in Germany, sort of following similar models. I'm not sure who came up with it first, but definitely US tried it on this big scale early on. And another wonderful part about it that I thought was very interesting to me, as I was a student in Russia and as I just moved to Germany, is that every year they change the location. It's kind of a very bizarre concept, and only a very developed country can do that. That you can find multiple locations where you can successfully run a festival, a competition, and then serve that particular community with that. So it's a very different vibe, very different mood, and the way things go, whether it's on the east coast of the US or whether it's somewhere in Los Angeles, which is the west coast. So yeah, it's a very interesting concept, and full of passionate people doing it.
After winning the competition, you start a tour that the competition requires as a prize. And this was also a very busy time in your life, I believe so. And what would you like to tell us about that time?
Oh, yes, absolutely. Yeah, so, I mean, I went too far back talking about how I found out about the competition, but preparing for competition, of course, of that scale is a whole different journey. So it requires, yeah, a lot of preparation and planning, of course. And I discovered that planning ahead is very, very important, and then sticking to the schedule, creating sort of intermittent goals and weekly practice schedule, monthly practice schedule, and all of that should be done in an organized way, and maybe a year ahead. So this was on my mind to prepare for that particular event. So yes, this required long preparation. And after I won it, which was great news, and right after there was about a year time where until the tour would start. So it was a huge tour, almost 60 concerts and master classes all over the US, and also Mexico, also Brazil and Canada, places where I've never been before, and I never really knew what they're like, although I heard about them, of course. So this took almost a year to organize, and this is how GFA works. The winner gets a year time to prepare a CD recording. So somewhere a few months after the competition, one has a CD recording with Naxos, which is usually produced in Canada by Norbert Kraft, and then a few months later there is already the next convention, GFA convention, and that's the official start of the tour. And yeah, so I started, and probably I think I spent like 7 or 8 months on the road with little breaks here and there, but mainly it was non-stop traveling, over half a year traveling in the US and Canada and other places.
Let's listen our first music then. Vladimir Gorbach plays The Four Seasons by Astor Piazzolla, arranged by Sergio Assad. In the YouTube version of Masters of the Guitar program, we couldn't use some of the audio samples that we use in radio program, so you can check the list below. Thank you so much. These wonderful interpretations. Listening your music always make me emotional. After the tour, you have settled to Australia, Sydney, where you are talking right now, and you work as a senior lecturer at the University of Sydney Conservatorium of Music. What would you like to tell us about your current works and projects? As I know, you have just released a series of arrangements entitled Russian Treasures Volume 1.
Well, before Australia, I actually first moved to Los Angeles, and that's where I worked for a couple of years at the California State University there. And I was lucky enough to host a JFA convention in Fullerton, where the campus of the California State University is. One of the campuses where I worked alongside with the president of the Guitar Foundation of America, Martha Masters. After a couple of years there, I moved to Sydney. The reason is that I've been to Sydney before, and I really, really loved it. I visited Sydney with concerts a few years before, started my appointment here, and I realized that they were looking for a guitar teacher here, and I thought that would be a wonderful opportunity to start something in such a country as Australia. And yeah, so I decided to move here. And well, originally the idea was maybe I could do both. I was so greedy, and I thought, yes, I could probably, as they say, be between two continents as an educator. And of course, this was not possible, and I had to decide in the end where shall I be. Of course, Sydney is a wonderful place, and my connection to America was already very, very strong, and I loved working there and living there, and people that I met there. So this was like a wild west for me, unexplored terrain and opportunities. So I just decided to do, and I felt like I will be completely on my own. So this kind of freedom, as terrifying as it is, it was also a very sort of enticing one. And yeah, so 6 years ago, I started my appointment here. Yeah, well, since my base changed to here, and so all my traveling concentrated around this area mainly, but still also projects and concerts in Europe and in Japan. And I joined forces with my colleagues in New Zealand, and became part of the guitar quartet called New Zealand Guitar Quartet, and which has a very, very busy schedule. So every year we would have a tour, and also we played at GFA in Louisville a couple of years ago, and did all New Zealand tour. New Zealand is not a big country, but it was enough places to spend the whole month on the road there, which was a very, very nice experience, very interesting places visited, beautiful little towns and bigger cities. So this was a wonderful tour. And of course I collaborate still with the quartet, not during these times, but hopefully we'll start again soon after, sometime in the future. And I also decided to explore more chamber music, because I believe that guitar as an instrument benefits from working with other musicians, and guitarists would definitely benefit. And also it's helpful to find this place in overall music community, not just among guitarists. So I really like the idea of integrating guitar into different projects, and we made a few recordings of new music with voice and strings and other instruments. And most recent effort resulted in the publication of 19th century Russian music, and it just came out early this year, early January. It's called Russian Treasures, and it's dedicated, volume 1. So it's an ongoing project. There will be volume 2 and volume 3, and then maybe more. So this one is dedicated to the compositions of Vladimir Morkov, who I discovered also a few years ago. I heard the name, but I didn't really know the works of that composer. And the reason for that is that back in the day, the instrument in Russia, the guitar in Russia was the Russian guitar, 7-string guitar, which has a different tuning, and a lot of music aficionados and composers and players, they were writing for the 7th-string guitar. So by the beginning of the 20th century, the focus kind of switched gradually, but surely, and specifically after Segovia's concerts in Russia, sort of the Spanish 6-string guitar, the classical guitar became the thing, and 7th-string guitar sort of fell off the radar, and the repertoire was forgotten. And still today, it's sort of on the fringe of the guitar scene in Russia, and of course in the world as well. Not many people know this instrument, but I kept discovering works of incredible beauty and sophistication. And today, or the maybe a few years ago, or 10, 20 years ago, people would think about 7-string guitar as a sort of like a folk instrument with more like dancey tunes and gypsy kind of music, which is a wonderful music, but it wasn't limited to this style at all. The composer that I published the arrangements of work. So my project was arranging the works of Vladimir Morkov and adopting them for the classical guitar. And I discovered that Morkov was a very sophisticated composer, and he did a lot of arrangements himself of works by Sohr and by Gaspar Merz, Johann Gaspar Merz, and others. So then his own output was influenced by this European school of guitar, but he was writing obviously for the 7-string. And also he was the one who tried to compose for guitar in every key. So he wrote this cycle of 24 preludes in every key. They were actually the hardest to arrange because as I would be arranging them for classical guitar, I had to really work hard to maintain the idea but make it playable because of the different tuning. So but it took specifically this time where I would be normally traveling and not having the chance to spend enough time with this project. But now I was stuck in Australia and sort of kind of put this time to good use, I thought.
Pandemic is somehow is not always a bad thing, especially for us, for musicians who just postponed their projects, now can easily find the time to proceed them, right?
Well, I think pandemic is a tragic thing in a way it affects people's lives in terms of health and death, but the not traveling part, which is an integral part of musician's life or active musician's life, that sometimes is not the worst thing.
Can we listen to the announcement of the next pieces from you then?
And now we will hear 3 sonatas by Domenico Scarlatti out of 500. I picked K239, K86 and K27.
You are listening Masters of the Guitar program on Borusan Klasik Radio. We continue our conversation with our guest, Vladimir Gorbach. Dear Vladimir, unfortunately till now you didn't give any concert in Turkey, in our country. I hope to be able to invite you to my country after the pandemic. Would you please share with us your upcoming events and projects in the near future?
Well, 2021 was supposed to be also a busy year. First half of the year, I was scheduled to appear with the New Zealand guitar quartet in Moscow Virtuosos Festival, and then in Germany as with my solo concert. But for now, we rescheduling that concert because the travel restrictions from Australia and from New Zealand are still enforced, and so it may make it very difficult to travel from this part of the world. I mean, if I were located in Europe, that it would be probably different because I hear that people can travel within Europe. But from here, we still look and restart our concert activities and traveling maybe end of this year, hopefully end of this year. But for now, the projects would include online concerts, and I'm going to play for Fundación de Ernesto Quesada, that's in Chile, and then some local projects here too, which hopefully will be live performances.
Then what shall we listen now?
Now you will hear the variations on a theme by Fernando Sor, La Folia by Miguel Liobet.
As we approach the end of the program, Vladimir, I want to ask your advice for the young generation guitarists.
I feel that young generation sometimes can give us older musicians a good advice as well. But for those who look to improve and to become better musicians and better guitarists, so I think this is your time, and if you stay curious, you can discover so many things in today's world with today's resources, mainly through internet and the information that you can have access to. It's actually a different world to what I remember growing up, and of course today we can't even imagine our reality without the digital media resources and all of that. But if you always look for beauty in music, if you always explore and experiment, you will always be successful. You'll be destined to reach the next level and the next level, and then move your horizon. And so I'm not really worried about that. So it's not really like an advice. It's just sort of a thought about the young generation. So I'm pretty optimistic about the younger players, and I see a lot of very, very talented, very passionate, very ambitious musicians as well, who are just now entering the stage, and yeah, it's wonderful. So, and it's inspiring to see.
What shall we listen to now?
We can listen to Vicente Assencio, parts of the suite Collectisse Intim. I'd like you to listen to La Gaubanza, La Calma, and La Frisanza, which is the last three movements of this suite.
We have come to the end of episode 25th, where we hosted Vladimir Gorbach in the Masters of the Guitar program. Dear Vladimir, thank you so much for your contribution.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. Thank you, Emre, and for your wonderful questions and this conversation.
Thank you. I send you my best wishes for your new projects. You can send us all your opinions and suggestions about the program via the address gitarinsustaları@gmail.com. I wish you all a nice week.